And let's get into that promo. Let's talk about that promo that went down about a week ago during the Thanksgiving edition of AEW Dynamite, because that's a promo, a 20-minute segment that lit the wrestling world and the internet wrestling community on fire. Because the show opened with a 20-minute segment that the IWC adored. They loved it. And it was a segment where two men, two wrestlers, two superstars, whatever you want to call them, didn't throw a single punch. The belt didn't ring. There was no championship on the line. It was just a verbal showdown between two of the very best. CM Punk came out to open the show. I believe he was going to open the show in Dynamite against QT Marshall. He was about to, for all intents and purposes, go into clobbering time and face his opponent when MJF's music hit, and out comes one of the world's most despised heels, and in my opinion, currently the one man in professional wrestling who is untouchable on that stick. And this segment that they had during the Thanksgiving Dynamite proves it. Because MJF, and I know a lot of fans got a sense of this, MJF held back a lot of things. He held back some visceral, verbal showdowns against Punk, because this is a battle of the up-and-comer in MJF, who is the heel, obviously, in every single feud, every single rivalry he is in AEW. He has been the heel, going up against the legend, the icon, the returning hero in CM Punk. So of course you compare MJF's, 5 years in the business with his, I believe he had a small independent run, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry. He had a run in Major League Wrestling before he came to AEW and is now one of the four pillars. We'll get into that a little bit later on this topic. You had MJF with about 5 years of baggage in professional wrestling versus CM Punk's almost 20-year plus years of baggage in professional wrestling. So right then and right there, the balance was already in MJF's favor, because MJF had a lot to touch upon versus CM Punk, who is already handcuffed over the fact that he is a babyface. He can't go too far, not even if he's in Chicago, because he is just this clean-cut babyface, and MJF called him out on that. And MJF brought a lot of things, a lot of truth to this segment. He called him out on the fact that for 7 years, 7 long years, he sat around at home and did nothing to change professional wrestling when he promised professional wrestling fans that he would. He did that. MJF brought up UFC, his CM Punk's short, very short UFC career. And that garnered quite a reaction from the hometown Chicago crowd, who was already against MJF from the start. But again, during this entire segment, the entire 20 minutes, the Chicago crowd in that arena just watched in awe of how Maxwell Jacob Friedman, just battered CM Punk on the mic. There were references to the WWE. There were references to CM Punk only being second best or being only number 2 in the WWE when he was a part of it. That garnered quite a reaction. And all CM Punk did, and this is something that I fault him for, it might be some of his booking, the fact that he's a babyface, but all CM Punk did was the normal babyface cheap pop for the crowd, pandering to the crowd, and needless to say, some John Cena type remarks at the heel where he's trying to make fun of the heel, but not really. He's just trying to be aggressive in a way that doesn't come off as heelish. That's what I got from CM Punk, calling him my jealous fan, calling him needle dick, amongst other things, and the fact that the fact that got me the most about this segment was how MJF brought all this real stuff about CM Punk into the promo. And Punk immediately called him out on the fact that that was low-hanging fruit. And yes, it is low-hanging fruit. It was. But what else would you expect from MJF? What else would you expect from a promo or verbal beatdown segment between two of the very best on the stick? Are we supposed to believe that MJF would not touch upon that segment? Upon that topic? I know it's scripted. I know for a fact that CM Punk went out there in the middle of that ring, knowing fully well that he was about to go into a promo war with MJF, and there was going to be some ground rules. There was going to be some ground rules on what you can touch and what you can't touch. I believe that because if that didn't happen, MJF would have gotten a lot deeper under CM Punk's skin. He would have gone over the fact that CM Punk took his ball and went home for 7 long years because he did not get his way in WWE. And MJF would have told everyone at home and everyone in that arena that one day, maybe not a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, six years from now, doesn't matter the amount of time, that one day in the very near future, if CM Punk does not get his way in AEW, he might do the exact same thing he did in WWE. Take his ball and go home. And why wouldn't he? I mean, he's getting a buttload of money for being on Dynamite, for debuting on Rampage. Why wouldn't he do that if he did that for the #1 company in the world? The company that made him the star he is today, the recognizable name he is today. If he did that to the WWE all the way back in 2014, why would he not do that for All Elite Wrestling? A company who is about to turn 3. A company who has, yes, revolutionized professional wrestling in today's era. But, again, CM Punk cares little about that. And he's played the politics game, the game that he so criticized back in 2011, in 2012, in 2013, and right before he left in 2014, the game he criticized in WWE. He's playing that game because he's putting over AEW every time he can. He's putting over each wrestler that he faces, just like MJF mentioned. He's putting over every single city. He's basically being light. And I touched upon this on a show a few weeks ago. I am not content with the run that CM Punk has had in AEW. Has he had competitive matches? Yes. Has he faced off against some interesting opponents, some bigger names than others? But yes, he has done that exactly. But AEW, Tony Khan, CM Punk, and everyone else involved have let what has been one of the most monumental moments in wrestling in the past 10 years, CM Punk returning to professional wrestling. They have let that cool down, and that's not good. Now let's be thankful for someone like Maxwell Jacob Freeman, who is trying, who they have handpicked to try and burn a fire into CM Punk's run in AEW, and he is starting to do that. Because yes, CM Punk made his return. We were excited. He was facing off against Darby Allin. We were ultra excited about this match, and then he cooled down. And then we had this whole fight, this whole war with Eddie Kingston that they failed to explain to us why there was so much hatred between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. And now we got MJF and CM Punk, two of the best on the stick, and we are actually paying money to see them go one-on-one on the stick instead of one-on-one in a match. And just to bookend this entire topic, I'm happy in where they are currently in their feud, currently in their rivalry. Because their hero and villain, they are put in two very different situations. Because we know that as a heel against a babyface Punk, MJF will just eviscerate him every single time he gets on the mic. Because he's just that damn good on the mic. He has that much material on Punk. And Punk, he's great on the stick. We all know that. But again, he's handcuffed by the fact that he's a babyface and he can't go too far. At least that's my opinion. So I love the fact that in a promo war on a stick, MJF will get the better of CM Punk every single time right now. But CM Punk has the edge in the middle of that ring because every single fan out there knows, every single pundit, every single analyst, every single wrestling fan out there knows that once they get in the ring, and they will get in the ring, whether it be in Winter is Coming, or in the new year, or they have their final grudge match at Revolution next year, CM Punk will and can and will run circles around MJF in the middle of that ring. And that is what every single fan should be hoping for, with CM Punk being the hero in this entire segment. But enough of that. Those are my thoughts on that segment. I can get into more detail about every single remark that they each made. But I want to hear your thoughts. Leave your thoughts and comments on the comment section below. What do you think about MJF going toe-to-toe with CM Punk on a Thanksgiving edition of Dynamite? And what do you think it's going to go down? When do you think they're going to have their very first match? Leave it on the comment section below.